Welcome to the podcast. Súbele volumen. Conversation with the people who were with me. In the world TV. Carlos Tonight. Carlos Tonight. Historias de un reportero. Carlos Tonight. Carlos Tonight.
Welcome to Carlos Tonight. Thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. Before we get things started, a little reminder, Carlos Tonight is all new every other Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and now enjoy us on YouTube. You can also check us out at carlostonight.com. There you will read all about the show, see upcoming guests, and listen to past episodes. That's carlostonight.com. This week's guest is a fellow podcaster who I met when I was a reporter in Springfield, Missouri, and that was 15 years ago. He was the host of his own show at the local university where I taught journalism classes. He's now the host of one of the hottest podcasts around, On Air with Josh Evans. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Evans, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, man? How are you, buddy?
Can you believe it's been 15 years?
Man, time flies like crazy. And no, I cannot believe it's been 15 years. A lot of stuff's changed.
So do you remember when you and I met? 15 years ago?
Well, I remember when I had you on my podcast, not on my podcast, but on my radio show when I was on the Growl at Missouri State. It was you. I had you on a couple times.
Yeah, so you reached out to me. I was a reporter in Springfield, Missouri. You reached out to me and wanted to know if I could be on your radio show.
Yeah.
15 years ago. And I said, sure. So I went. We read some news items.
Uh-huh.
Is that what it was?
Because I had a news, I had part of my show. It was kind of like a top 40 show where I would do a little section of news, a little section of sports. And I thought, who would be better to do news than Carlos Correa? So I got you.
Thank you. Yeah, I missed those days in Springfield, Missouri. A lot has changed. Can you tell me what has changed? Because I don't even remember a lot of the stuff out there.
Well, man, like Springfield's still the same, but now they got Bass Pro. They've had Bass Pro forever, but now they got Wonders of Wildlife, which is a huge aquarium now in Springfield. And that's attracting a lot of attention. But since COVID's happened, it's kind of stopped a little bit. It's basically still the same, but a lot of stuff's changed both in my life and probably yours. I think for the better. I think we've grown up a little bit.
Just a little bit. I know you have a child, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she's she'll be
how's fatherhood?
Fatherhood is wild. She'll be 6 in October, so the younger years of a child's life is the most entertaining. But then when they get a little older, they get more mature. It's a different type of entertaining when they get older. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
You have to cherish those moments because they grow up really fast.
Very fast.
Next thing you know, they're going to be like teenagers and not wanting to hang out with you.
Yeah. Like next time I hear it, she's going to be 21 and getting her own car and doing all this stuff by herself. And I'm going to be like, hey, where'd you go? Come back.
Exactly. Can you believe that 15 years ago when I was on your radio show that we would be sitting here talking to each other on a podcast?
Yeah. Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Who knew the technology in the world would change? I never, back on the Growl days at Missouri State, I never pictured myself having my own podcast. And I never thought that you would go from being a TV anchor to have your own podcast.
Exactly. Tell me about, what was it, 2006? Is that when we met, 2006 or 2007?
Yes.
Around that time.
2006.
So tell me, what have you been doing since in the last 15 years?
Well. Where do I start? No, like I said, I got a daughter who was born in 2015. We'll start in 2007. In 2007, I was still going to Missouri State, and then I got a college internship with Walt Disney World, so I went down to Orlando for a year, did that deal, came back, started working construction, and then basically fast forward a while, I transferred from construction to security, which is a completely different ball game. And now, presently, I'm actually in Dallas, Texas, becoming a tower climber, like a cell phone tower climber. So we're the guys who literally go way up in the air, like 350, 450 feet, 1,000 feet, 1,200 feet, and replace all the radios and antennas on cell phone towers to make sure everybody gets the 5G that's coming, and make sure like when you call 911, that's what you use. You use cell phone towers, and that's what we do. We make sure they keep up and running.
What was the one thing that kind of what's the word? Attracted you to this job?
Well, I love
besides
heights.
the pay. They probably pay you a lot.
Yes, they pay a lot, and I love heights. Like I'm a daredevil. I'm not scared of really anything.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm not really scared of anything. I did towers back in 2019 just to get my foot in the door, but I was with mom and pop companies, and I really didn't get paid that good, and I wasn't really trained well. Well, when I got on with those mom and pop companies, I decided to, like, after I left, I came back to Springfield and started doing security, and then got on these Facebook tower climber groups and was like, hey, I posted an ad like a week ago or a month ago stating, hey, what are some of the really good tower companies like around the nation? And the company that I'm working for, Velex, one of the recruiters literally contacted me because everybody in the comments kept on saying Velex, 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 Velex. And they contacted me, and they have like over 60 locations throughout the United States and in foreign countries. And I said, hey, maybe now's the time for me to explore, since I love traveling. I miss my daughter a lot. That's the only downside, is I don't get to see her, but I video chat her every night. So, I mean, it's a catch-22. I'm just trying to better her life.
So you said that training is what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, training's 2 weeks.
And then you hit the road.
To Dallas. Yeah, I got to Dallas this past Sunday, and I'll be here for 2 weeks, and I leave next Friday. I'll go back to Springfield for the weekend, and then come Monday morning, our main office is out of St. Louis, so I'll drive from Springfield to St. Louis and then go on the road for a month. And then after that, we get a week break and then back on the road for
I like how Dallas greeted you with a tornado warning.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing on my phone is tornado warning this, thunderstorm warning that.
But tornadoes is something you're probably used to living in Springfield, Missouri, because I've covered a lot of tornadoes and bad weather in that area.
Yeah, you used to work at Ozarks Fox and Color 10, and we don't really. It's weird with Springfield because we're on like a valley, like in like a dip, like Los Angeles is. So we get tornadoes, but they're very sporadic. Like Springfield, I don't think has got a tornado in like 8 or 9 years.
I remember when I met you, you had so much passion for radio, and I think you still do. What happened to that?
I loved radio. It's all just going commercialized, and so many DJs around like the area are just being moved around a lot, whether it be because of ratings or whatever. And I really didn't want to be in that category. So that's why I kind of took a break for radio for a while. And then February of this year, I decided I was actually watching a Joe Rogan podcast, and he kind of got me into podcasting. And I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. I can do my own thing. I don't play the same music over and over again or whatever. And it's like you can do your own thing. So I said, hey, I'm just going to do my own podcast, and that's what I'm doing, and that's what you're doing. I
feel like the television industry and the radio industry is moving toward it. They're getting smaller. I was at one station in San Diego that closed down, like an entire station closed down. And
really?
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of newspapers shutting down, moving to like online stuff. Magazines are doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's like everything is going online now. Even like Walmart. Like Walmart has cut like I don't know about the Walmarts here, like in Dallas, but the Walmarts in Springfield have all cut out their employees. So basically, it's all self-check now, or it's curbside service or online shopping. And I'm just like, why? I mean, I get it because this is where the time is, and we're in 2021. Who knows what's going to happen by the time 2030 comes around?
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's good that we have this this area where we can continue being creative and continue creating content for people and doing what we love doing, which is interviewing people and storytelling. And you have a lot of good guests on your podcast that I've been checking out, On Air with Josh Evans, wherever you get your podcasts, everybody. Tell me, so far, who has been your favorite person that you have interviewed on your podcast?
That's a really hard question. My type of podcast is I wanted to be different. Like, I wanted to be different compared to Ryan Seacrest or compared to Larry. Like, everyone that I've talked to refers me and compares me to Larry King. He was a talk show host on CNN for a long time with Larry King Live, but his was on television, so mine's on a podcast. But I've literally interviewed everybody, like politicians, musicians, authors, comedians. Actually, my favorite one probably was Oliver Graves from America's Got Talent. That was a pretty fun interview. He's a dark comedian, like gothic type comedian, and just to hear him talk and to hear his deal about AGT, it was just incredible.
There was a guest that you and I have interviewed in the past. He was on your podcast recently, and I interviewed him 15 years ago, and that is the Greene County Sheriff, Jim Arnett. Tell me why you wanted to have him on your show.
Yeah, Jim Arnett.
He's kind of a big deal out there.
Well, he is a big deal, and the reason I got Jim, I've had law enforcement as my backup career or security as my backup career for a long time, even when I met you 15 years ago in Missouri State. And I've always wanted to learn more about the county. And it's like anything that happens in the county, he's the one who deals with it. And like Jim is just awesome. Like I met him. I literally got to go to Greene County Courthouse and sit in his office and see all his plaques and stuff. And he's got elected 4 different terms now. And he's a really awesome, down-to-earth guy.
I still can't believe he's still like in office.
I know, man. He's been in office like what, almost 6 years now, I think, if not more. He just keeps getting reelected and reelected and reelected because nobody, like, I think people are scared to run against him just because everyone in Springfield, if you know Springfield and you know Greene County, you know Jim Arnott or you've heard of Jim Arnott. He's very good at his job, and he tries to help out the community, like give back to Springfield and the county. That's why I really got him on the show, just because he gives back. And
the reason why I said I was surprised he was still in office was because my best friend in Chicago growing up, Martha, recently she and I were talking about high school. We went to high school together. And there's like a group on Facebook with graduates and stuff. And today, in fact, I was on the website of my school that I went to in Chicago, and all the teachers and all the admins and everybody is different from the people that when I went to school, which is probably more than 15 years ago. But I always, imagined that the same people would always be there for some reason.
Yeah, me too. Like you think when you're in high school, the same people are going to be there, but then they grow, they get older, they retire, they do their years, and like I remember going to high school and seeing that happen, and just like, wow. Like I had my 10-year reunion. It's been like 7 years ago, and that was a crazy sight to see. Like my 20-year, I can't believe my 20-year reunion's coming up. It's insane. It's
kind of like realizing that moment when you thought your dog would live forever.
Yeah,
and they didn't. Yep, they don't.
That's it. And like it's just weird. But like the reason why I wanted you on my podcast or on my show on the Growl was because I loved your news stories on Color 10. Like you would get I bet you got so much feedback from everybody of your listeners and the people that watch you, just because you were the investigative type, and I love that about you, and that's why I really wanted you on my show, and I'm really glad you did. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, they gave me some good stories in Springfield, Missouri, and in fact, a lot of the people, did I say that right? A lot of the folks that I've interviewed, over time, we've been friends on Facebook. And,
so you still stay in contact.
And it's
That's good.
It's cool watching them like grow up, and they get engaged, they get married, they have kids, they buy houses, they get new jobs, they move around, and it's like, wow, cool. Just like you on Facebook.
Yeah, it amazes me just how much time flies. Like you really don't, like when you're growing up as a kid, you really don't think time flies, and then you become a teenager, then you get your own car. Then you graduate high school, then you start college, and then by the time you get, like I'm almost 35. Like I just turned 35 actually, like 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And I can't believe I'm 35.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And it's like people, I think some people take life for granted, and they should just have fun. And whatever you do, you got to have fun. If you don't have fun, there's no purpose. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Did you have
that's why I'm kind of...
You had a birthday show, right?
Sorry. Yeah, I had a birthday show. I had a whole bunch of... That was awesome because I had a whole bunch of people on my show like that had sent me recorded things saying happy birthday and stuff, and say, hey, I want to be on your birthday show, your birthday show, your birthday show. And I was just like, dude, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Like, it's just cool with a podcast because... Like the reason why I started mine is, like I said, because you get to do whatever you want to do, whether you want to talk about sports, or you want to talk about news, or you want to interview everybody, or you want to talk about music or movies or whatever. You can literally do anything on a podcast. And I love it because it's not radio. Like I love radio, but it's getting so repetitive over and over and over again with the same songs over and over again. Just like they try to keep it entertaining, but I think just like you said earlier in the podcast, everybody's going towards like online and technology, and the only reason they listen to the radio because it's in their car, you know what I mean? But now everybody's starting to do everything on their smartphone.
What's one thing that you miss about your radio days in college at the Growl?
Oh man,
was it Adam?
Well,
Adam was your co-host, right?
Yeah, Adam Hammonds was his name, and I miss that kid. He's gotten married now and I think he lives in like Colorado now, and he's like I check up on him from hearing from every now and again, but he's doing awesome. And like one thing I miss from my show, actually I miss doing it in person. Like that's the difference between podcasting and radio. When you interview people, or when I used to interview people, it was all in person. Now with my podcast, I'm doing 95% of it over the phone, just because people are from Nashville and I'm traveling right now. So it's kind of hard to find a spot to hook up in a week to do a podcast. So like I like being in person.
And doing your podcast, you can just, be pantless, right?
Conversation with the people who were with me in the World TV. Carlos Tonight.
Fellow podcaster Josh Evans, host of On Air with Josh Evans. He's my guest this week. Josh, I want to know more about podcasting, and tell me how you prepare for each of your shows.
Well, podcasting is a lot different than radio. In radio, you have scripts, which kind of you do in podcasting. But with me, I don't really prepare or write stuff down, which they say you should do, but I don't really do that. I'm a spur of the moment type of guy. I ask questions off the top of my head, and I do it that way just because I like different. I don't want to be the same as everybody else. I want to be different. So that's why I kind of that's why I like my podcast, just because it's not like everybody else's. And I'm trying to be. It's like in my apartment. At my apartment, most people in their apartment have pictures and stuff like that. In my apartment, I have posters everywhere that I got from Walmart just because I want to be different. It's crazy when people walk into my apartment. They're like, "Whoa, you have way too many posters." I was like, I like difference. And of course, my 6-year-old daughter, almost soon to be 6-year-old daughter, loves it. But like podcasting, I love podcasting. Podcasting is the new era.
I feel like podcasting is like Ubering. You set your own hours. You could do whatever you want. You have no boss. You can be as creative as you want to be.
Yep, you can do your show. You can do your show once a week, once a month, every day. Like, it doesn't matter. You don't have a set schedule. It's whenever you feel like you want to do a podcast, go ahead and do it.
Is there anyone in particular that you have always wanted to interview? If so, who are they?
Ooh.
And who may be on your show?
Man, that is a very tough question. Who have I wanted to interview? Well, like I said, Joe Rogan, just because he inspired me to do my podcast. He would be somebody I'd like to interview. I'm getting really big right now into like NASA. So like Elon Musk is probably, if I could interview anybody, it would probably be Elon Musk, just because he is so inventive and creative with his aspect on going to Mars and SpaceX and Tesla and just everything that he's doing right now. Like, it's incredible. It's a sight to see for sure.
Absolutely.
What about you?
Who would I interview?
If Carlos Correa could interview anybody in the world, who would he interview and why?
Okay, there's a couple of people that I really want to interview. And I'm going to say, speaking of NASA, I'm going to say Jose. Oh, I can't remember his last name. But he was one of, I think, the first Latino astronaut.
Yeah.
So I would interview him.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I would interview my barber from California.
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
He for me, he was inspiring. I would also want to interview some of my coworkers who I've actually reached out to, and they told me that they felt like they didn't have a cool story, and I'm like, yes, you do.
Everybody has a cool story.
Everybody, no matter who you are, where you come from, everyone has a good story to tell.
Yeah, that's one reason, like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's one reason you asked why I do podcasts. That's like the main reason I do my podcast right there, because everybody has their own story. You could go, and like my podcast, like I said, I've interviewed a whole bunch of people, but like you can get somebody off the street to come in and like somebody you never even met in your life who's just walking down the street and say, "Hey, I got a podcast. You want to join?" And they said, "Yeah, come in and share their story." And they just talk about life, talk about their experiences, talk about what they do, where they've been, what they're going to do. You know, it's just, to me, it's just incredible to hear everybody's story, because everybody's story is different.
So
and that's what I like.
So on your show, are they range from like musicians? You had a card reader the other day, right?
Yeah, I've had the sheriff of Greene County on my show. I've had Nashville artists, like Nashville musicians. I had a band from Los Angeles a couple of weeks on the show. I've had authors on my show. I've had comedians on my show. Yeah, I've had like this week. I actually have she hosts her own show. It's called Kathy Talks, and she was on my. She had basically called me up and said, "Hey, do you care if I put you on my podcast?" And I was like, "Okay." So she basically put me on the podcast, and it was basically a tarot reading about relationships, and that was very informative and very interesting.
Is she from your area or from?
She's not. She's actually she is actually born and raised in New York City, but now she lives in Chicago, so she has the New Yorkin accent.
Wow. How'd you guys connect?
We're actually on a group podcasters page on Facebook with the tarot reading. She had no time to look up anything on me, because it was like within
okay.
5 minutes of me commenting, yes, I want to do the interview, she said, what's your phone number? Message me it. So I messaged her it, and like 5 minutes later, she called me and she started this reading, and I was just like, I was blown away from it, because like I said last week on my show, she hit everything that we talked about on point. I mean, down to the nitty-gritty details of everything, and it was just like, I don't really believe in tarots or psychics or anything like that, but for what she does and how she did it, I don't know how she did it. I still don't know, but she rocked it for sure.
Amazing. The best thing I like about podcasting is when the listeners send you messages. I don't know, have you been getting any feedback from people about your show?
Yes, you get a lot of feedback. Sometimes it's
Cool.
positive, sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. You just got, my deal with feedback is I just listen to everybody and try to do what I can to make it better. If they don't like something, like I'm really blunt on my show. So if you don't like something about my show, tell me and I'll see what I can do to fix it, or see what I can do to change it up a little bit to make you happy.
Everyone's a critic, right?
Yes. But the number one thing that I found in podcasting is you cannot please everybody. So That's why I say, do it for yourself. Do what you like to do. Talk about what you want to talk about, who you want to talk with, and you'll get followers that way.
In the world TV, Carlos Tonight, historias de un reportero. Carlos Tonight, dale que viene lo bueno.
And we're still talking to fellow podcaster Josh Evans, host of On Air with Josh Evans. We met 15 years ago when I was a reporter in Springfield, Missouri. You currently live in Springfield, Missouri. You're traveling right now. Tell me, how would you sell Springfield, Missouri to somebody who's never been?
Okay, if you've never been to Springfield, Missouri, first of all, it's in the center of the United States, so we're literally smack dab right in the middle of the country. We're not on the East Coast. We're not on the West Coast. We're in Central Time. Springfield, Missouri is the third largest city in Missouri. So you got St. Louis, you got Kansas City, and then you got Springfield. If somebody's never been to Springfield, one of the famous things that we are famous for is prime trucking. Like, have you ever seen semi-trucks, like the prime truckers? That's where they all come from. Or Bass Pro. Bass Pro, you'll see everywhere.
Oh,
There's
that's
a Bass
right.
Pro in Dallas. There's a Bass Pro in Memphis, in Atlanta, in South Carolina. Like, they're all over the place. But the main headquarters and where Bass Pro was literally founded is in Springfield.
One thing I remember about Springfield, Missouri, when I was a reporter there, was covering this huge event. The Simpsons movie was coming out, and they were trying to name Springfield as, the city in the show, in the Simpsons show. But there's like more than just one Springfield in the U.S.
Yes, there are multiple Springfields in the U.S., and from what I've heard is the Simpsons movie or show is not particular to one Springfield. They're to all the Springfields. Now, don't quote me on that, but that's what I've heard from people in Springfield and doing my own research and everything.
Have you ever been to any other Springfields?
I've been to Springfield, Illinois, and that's probably about it. I was actually in Florida, right beside Panama City, because I was going to go on a vacation before I started tower climbing. There's a Springfield right beside Panama City in Florida, and I was going to go to my vacation in Panama City Beach and then drive like 5 minutes away, and there's Springfield. I'm like, hey, I'm home.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Let me do this real quick. So before you called in, I sent out a message on social media, and I got 3 questions for you from some of our listeners.
Awesome.
This one came in from Emily. Emily wants to know what something do in Orlando. What did you do in Orlando?
What did I do in Orlando? Emily, I worked in Walt Disney World in Orlando. I actually was on a college internship. So if you have, this goes out to anybody going to college or in college. If you are in college, go to DisneyCollegeProgram.com, and they literally put you up in a complex in in Kissimmee, Florida, and you basically work at Disney World, and that's what I did. Started out in parking, and like I said, I was there for a year. So I started out in parking, and I worked everything from parking at Epcot all the way to lifeguard, all the way to the Disney Wide World of Sports for the Atlanta Braves spring training games. And then they pushed me to attractions. And then toward the end of my career, or end of my year internship, they pushed me to a character attendant, and then I finally become some famous characters that Disney's famous for.
I forgot you mentioned that earlier in the podcast. So thank you, Emily, for reminding me and paying attention. This one's from Vanessa. You kind of answered this. She wanted to know, where is Springfield? So we talked about that. So I'm going to add this one and say, what is your favorite place in Springfield? Restaurant, or maybe a place you want to go and chill?
Well, I love downtown Springfield. I love the Mud House Coffee.
Do they still have Ernie Biggs there?
No, yes, I think. They've changed so much stuff downtown all the time. One thing I really
That was the piano bar, right?
Yes, Ernie Biggs, the piano bar.
Okay.
One thing I really like about Springfield is going to the Springfield Cardinal games. They're an affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals. They're the AAA team, and I'm a big baseball fan, so I like going to the games and just hanging out with my daughter and stuff. She really likes going out there because they have a little field that you can sit on and watch. They do fireworks every single Friday, whether they win or lose. So, I mean, it's just cool. It's a family fun time.
I'm sure she'll remember that for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
Because I remember when the first ever movie that I ever went to with my father was Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, I love that movie. I haven't seen that movie in years.
And I'm dating myself. All right. And then our regular Rosie wants to know, how high can you go on the tower?
Well, okay.
And you mentioned that you're in Dallas now training for a new job where you go up on cell phone towers?
Yeah,
right?
you basically fix cell phone towers. So there's differences. There's cell phone towers, and then there's TV towers. So the highest tower, to my knowledge, is 1,600 feet in the air. And that's a TV tower. I'm not sure where it is. There's a really tall tower in St. Louis. It's about 1,000 or 1,200 feet. But the tallest tower I've personally been on, and I did towers back in 2019. And I did towers for about 6 months, and the highest tower I went was about 450 feet in the air.
Wow. I can't believe you don't get scared.
No, man. And it's cool because I flew here from Springfield, and if you've ever flew and you look out your window, that's basically the view that we get from tower climbers, because we literally climb up in the clouds. Like, there are pictures of guys climbing 1,200 feet in the air, being right above the clouds and just seeing clouds all around you. And then you climb down and you're climbing through the clouds and then you finally see the ground. It's just like the sights. That's the thing. Like being a tower climber, like working for a tower company is the craziest, funnest, coolest experience it's probably second to Disney World. Like, second's probably my first best thing, besides my daughter, of course. But in order, it'd be Disney World, and then it'd probably be tower climbing, just because you travel a lot, you see new places, and when you climb towers, you get to see incredible heights.
Do they teach you, don't look down, on the first day?
Yeah. Well, some people, they tell us that they don't want you to look down, but it's all about safety, especially with towers, because you have to rely on your harness. When you're on the tower, if your harness messes up in any way, shape, or form, it could be a life or death situation.
Right. Wow. If
the tower breaks or whatever, that could be a life or death situation. And it's like tomorrow we're training. It's my fourth day here at this new company, Velix, and tomorrow we're training and rescuing because it's kind of crazy because when somebody gets hurt on a cell phone tower, no matter how high you are in the air, they'll call firefighters and police, but nobody is trained in emergency services to climb cell phone towers.
Wow.
So basically, if somebody gets hurt on the tower, and we're a group of 4 people who go out on the road, like per crew, we are trained in saving our crew members. Now, like from the tower, once they get on the ground, then fire and EMS can take over. But while they're on the tower, like fire and EMS has to wait till we get the person down for whatever reason, unless they are in the military and have training like that. But 95% of the firefighters and paramedics don't.
You're brave. Good for you, man.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's another ball game. It's a very different experience, and it's thrilling. Like, I do it because you never know what's going to happen.
You sure love an adventure, huh?
Yes, I do love adventure. I like seeing new stuff. I like meeting new people. I like talking to new people and seeing new things. It's like you travel everywhere, but I have never been to Texas, really. I've been through Amarillo when I drove from Springfield to LA, but I've never been to like Dallas or Corpus Christi or any place like that. So seeing Dallas for the first time is just really awesome.
Cool. Well, let's hope that you meet more people. And speaking of that, tell us where we can find On Air with Josh Evans and when.
You find On Air with Josh Evans every single Saturday. I post it early morning Saturdays, and it's posted. It'll be live throughout the day. But it's on 9 platforms. I'm on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. What else? There's a lot.
You're all over the place.
Yeah. You can find us on Twitter. We're on Twitter and Facebook, twitter.com/onairwithjosh or facebook.com/onairwithjosh.
The hottest podcast around. I love that line.
Yes, sir.
Well, Josh Evans, it was good catching up with you. I will talk to you in 15 years.
All right, Carlos. You be safe.
All right. God bless.
God bless you.
Carlos Tonight. Carlos Tonight.
And that's a wrap. Carlos Tonight is written and produced by yours truly, Carlos Correa. My theme was performed by Sken, Galis. You can catch all new episodes of Carlos Tonight every other Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and we're on YouTube. You can also check us out at carlostonight.com.
Dale que viene lo